The following video is a parent conference that I completed at the end of the 20 lessons with Carter's parents, Chad and Crystal Kemker. Because I was out of town when Carter's parents wanted to complete the conference, and there was no way that I could do it completely in person, they agreed to film the phone conference for this class. I chose to discuss his assessment results, reading styles, what was included in the lessons, and his frustration levels, in addition to asking his parents what they thought about his reading skills and interests, and suggested many ways to help Carter improve his reading skills out of the classroom. His parents didn't seem too interested or involved in the conference, but they haven't really been too interested in the lessons throughout the summer, at the beginning of the summer, when I filled out the parent information sheets with them, so I wasn't too surprised by the lack of interest in this conference.
Rob has been working with Carter on some of his reading skills. Could you tell me a little bit about Carter's school? Tell me where he went to school, when he started, and a little bit about his schooling and his teachers.
Go ahead.
Blair Oaks. Kindergarten.
All right.
Last August.
All right, and he started school in August. He completed his first year. What were his grades like in general? His reading grades, his math grades, anything like that?
They didn't grade him.
No grades at all? What
No.
was his assessment?
Huh?
He showed me at the very beginning of the summer his assessment results. What were those like? At grade level, below?
Towards the end of the year, average. Before the beginning of the year, they were above average.
Okay. And what do you think had anything to do with, if they were above average and then towards the end of the year they were just average, what do you think had to do with that?
His attention.
I'm sorry?
His attention.
His attention. What type of problems does he seem to portray in school, like in the actual classroom?
Talking. When he shouldn't be.
Impatient.
Yes.
You see, at the beginning we said he also had a lot of frustration. What do you think causes that frustration?
He just gets real aggravated whenever he's trying to do something and it doesn't go his way.
Okay. Would you say that it's more in reading or his math skills? Or both?
And whatever he does.
Yeah, in whatever, but mainly reading. He gets real frustrated with the reading.
Okay. Well, after this past summer working with him and everything, there were some things that I noted. At the very beginning, I did give him a test. I administered a couple different assessments, just basically trying to see where his level is at. And he is on course. According to the test results, he is at a kindergarten reading level. Toward the end of that's the beginning of the summer. So I know we've only worked 20 lessons, so it's obviously not going to be that much of an improvement as maybe if there was like a full school year. But his test and assessment results did come back that he was on reading level. After working with him, I can also say that I can see a lot of frustration. He gets very aggravated with himself when he doesn't understand a word. There were certain times that we did a lot of read alouds. I know, according to his summer school, Crystal, you said that he was supposed to read 15 minutes per day, correct?
10 hours for the summer.
10 hours for the summer, which I think approximated has 15 minutes per day. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
15-minute increments. Yeah.
We definitely put those requirements while we were reading, because we did read aloud, we did some activities, we did all sorts of stuff. When we were doing this reading, we also did guided reading. Like I would read a sentence and then he would follow up with that sentence. Every single lesson we also did an LEA, which is where he would tell me a story and I would write it out. It was approximately 100 words. And then after that story was told, I would read it back to him and he would have to read it back to me. He seemed to like that. He had a lot of creativity when it came to this. It was interesting to see some of his stories that he came up with. But I think he really enjoyed that activity because he got to show his creativity. His favorite things that we did were obviously when he got to draw. He really liked those. I would have him tell me a story, read it back to me, and then I would allow him a couple minutes to illustrate the story or to draw it. And he really enjoyed that also. Just a couple things I do want to note. We did the first and row independent reading inventory. Basically, at the very beginning, that was the first thing that we did. I tested him on comprehension, on, let me check 1 second, on a graded word list, a graded reading passage, and then eliciting comprehension. He actually, whatever he reads, he pays very close attention to what he reads, and he can answer the questions very well. Have you noticed that in any time that you do any reading with him outside of school?
A little bit.
Just a little bit. When you read with him outside of school, what kind of, like, what books do you read?
Like magazines.
No.
Well, he's got the magazine.
Well, he does those, but he can't read those. It's just for his reading level, you know, little bitty words.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets
you
frustrated when
you read to him and then have him repeat what you read or try to learn those.
No, I
think
make.
it's obviously going to be a much higher level than what he needs to read, though.
No, I make him sound him out,
Okay.
or try to find him out until he gets frustrated.
Okay. One thing that I noted with Carter is when we would read, he was very frustrated if it's not on his level. And there were a couple times throughout the summer that I had brought books, and they were above his level, and he became very frustrated. So that was definitely my fault. But at the same time, he does like to sound them out. I noticed when he has the different sounds of his mornings that he's learning, we tried to focus on certain types, certain patterns when we were going through them. And he's very good with the long sounds, the long vowel sounds, but he struggles a little bit with the short vowel sounds. Did you notice that?
Not really. I haven't.
Alright, well, there's an inventory that I did at the very beginning. It was like a word list, and he had to read the word list to me, and he struggled a little bit with it. It was the pre-primer word list, and he struggled a little bit with it, but it was kind of interesting because then the next word list, I had him do another word list that was a little bit above that level, and he had no problems with it. But I think it's because there was a little bit more long vowel sound.
Yeah, and if you go through and read and he has a problem with one word, you tell him what it is, he'll go back through and it's the same word. He'll come back to it and he still has trouble with it. He just...
Right, and I noticed that actually a lot. He struggled really good. One of them, he struggled a lot with the GHT, like in might and night.
Mm-hmm.
All through the summer, it was constant. Like I would focus certain stuff specifically on that, those three letters together. Might, night, not, like a bunch of different words. And he still struggled all the way through. He couldn't recognize it no matter what. So what's kind of interesting about that is when we did those LEAs where he would tell me the story and read it back to me, he would say might a lot. In fact, I think in his first one he said might like actually got 9 of them. Let me get that important for you. His score was 8 to 9, which is really good for his level. Basically to test his mental abilities. They're not so much reading per se, but just to see exactly how, like, what he can do, what he's capable of, what kind of levels. So that was really good. Let's see, another test that I gave him, another assessment was the Yelp-Singer test of phoneme segmentation, which basically I give him a list of words, and he breaks them up. So for example, I give him the word dog, and he tells me what the 3 different letters in dog sound like. So basically taking one word and breaking it up into each sound that it makes. Alright?
Yep.
On this one, he did okay. There were a couple of them that I thought was interesting is because, like I said earlier, he's really good at the long route sounds, of sounding those out and everything. But when I administered this test at the beginning, he actually did not do very well with the long sounds. For example, keep was one of the words, K-E-E-P, and he kept trying to make the 2 E's as a separate sound instead of just one. So it was interesting because usually, like when he's reading on a normal basis, he has no problem with that, but for this one, he was struggling. Alright. And then in addition, I
Stay
did
away
one
from the
other
camera.
one. I did a phonics test, that's a core phonics test on him. I did want to go over those results. For this core phonics test, there's a couple different things that I did with it. Not giving these results. We went through each of the letters individually, uppercase and lowercase, to see if he could recognize them, and he did a fantastic job. He was able to recognize every single letter. And then I had him write them out. He has very good handwriting when he wants to know, but when he's in the rush, he has very messy. So in addition to this, like I said, I tried to go through all the letters.
His teacher said that she noted.
And then we went through all of the consonant sounds and all of the vowel sounds. For the vowel sounds, we went through long A, or the long sound, and the short vowel sound. And he did a pretty good job with that. And then finally, we went through multisyllabic words, so meaning multiple syllables. And this is where he struggled the most. There were 2 different syllables. Having first off to read them out, or read them all the way, and secondly, whenever it was a vowel, consonant, vowel sound, he struggled with being able to point those out. So when there's the quick sight basic ones, without very easily, but when it comes to the multi-syllable or like trigraph or digraph, when there's the letters, he should put those out. Alright? So what kind of things do you think you can do as a parent outside of the classroom to help him with his reading capability?
Practice.
Okay, practice. What types of things would you do to practice?
Reading.
Obviously, reading. But in terms of like activities, not just read aloud. Read aloud is very helpful, but there are a lot of different things that you can also do. So, for example, instead of just reading sight words or reading the certain things, there are games that you could play. We actually played a couple online games where you can just go online. If you do a quick Google search or if you go to certain websites, there are some definite easy games that you could
Yep.
In addition, I also wanted to just see, do you think he's ready to start school for the for his first grade year?
Yes.
Did his parent or did his teachers have excuse me, have any concerns or comments?
No.
No. They just thought he was awesome. My only concern is we also did a bunch of studies on dyslexia, and there were a couple different things about dyslexia that Carter kind of exhibited. So, for example, that frustration that we talked about, the rushing through things, fussing, skipping over words, certain things like that. And so I just wanted to make sure that you did keep a close eye on that as we were going through, especially as he's going through his first grade year, because if he doesn't master these skills at the beginning of his learning, then it's very hard for him to make up for that later on. All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just going through again the papers that we went through at the very beginning of the summer, just kind of reviewing all of the information that you had. The student, he said he doesn't like to really read outside of school. That Carter, he'll look at pictures in magazines and stuff like that, but he doesn't really like to read outside of school. He doesn't just come to you and bring you a book, right?
No, but he's always constant. He does spell words a lot. He'll tell you how they're spelled just out, driving in the truck or outside, or tell you what it starts with, and he's always doing that.
Or trying to rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Or trying to rhyme words.
Oh yeah, we worked on writing a lot too. He definitely likes to read those. The Dr. Seuss books, anything that has rhyming, he does pick up on a lot better, just because I think he likes the pattern of the sound and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that you can focus on. Like you said, practicing outside of school, having that information, and just always reading to him or having him read to you is always really helpful. I know at the first grade level, they usually have the book at pizza parties and stuff like that. You have to read a certain amount. Does that start in first grade wherever,
It started in kindergarten.
Okay, started in kindergarten, so he's already at least used to that.
Well,
Just making sure that he does read, what he reads is on his level. So like I said, a couple of times he had brought me books that he really liked, but they weren't on his level. They were too high, and then that's going to cause his frustration.
Oh, that's what he does whenever he gets the books from the library at school. He brings.
In kindergarten, for the book, the parents can read to them though, instead of them read to you.
Okay, can you say that one more time?
I said in kindergarten, we can read to them instead of them read to us for the booklet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. That's how it is. Do you know if that's the same thing at the first grade level?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But that anything that you can do, him reading to you, you reading to him, even picture books are really good. If you have any just picture books, having him take those, look at those pictures and create a story with them.
Those are the ones I like too.
Me too. I hate reading.
What?
I said those are the ones I like too. The picture books.
Me too.
It's fun because then they can create, he can create his own story to go along with it, and then even at that point, what you could do is you could write down that story and then have him read it back to you. Because it's getting his creativity going. It's allowing him to read and reread his own work. Because I noticed whenever he would tell me stories for the LEA, he would be he's very creative with his stories, obviously.
And very detailed with them.
Even with that, his vocabulary, his speaking vocabulary, is so much higher than his reading vocabulary. So he could say a lot of different words, and he could tell great stories with very large words in them. But when it came back to reading them, he would struggle. So at least having him, if you ever have those picture books in front of him, have him tell a story, write it down, and then have him read it back, because what he can say is a lot higher level than what he can read. And that's what
in first grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know yet. Okay. And when does he start? He starts pretty soon, correct?
August 15th.
Both of us know this.
Right at a month, ain't it?
August 15th.
August 15th. Okay.
A month
So he's
from
starting
now.
pretty soon. That'll be a perfect time. If you're ever worried or concerned about anything, always feel free to just contact the teacher and say, stress to them that you may be concerned because they will do anything to get that information. Okay? All right. Well, after working with Carter and seeing all these things, I don't have any problems. Or I don't see a whole lot of problems. Like I said, he's very, very good with his. He's good with self-correction. He just doesn't like to read. The only time that he likes to read is if it's a subject that he's interested in. And if he's interested in it, then he'll read it. So, for example, anything that there were about dogs or dinosaurs,
Animals.
he's interested in. But when it comes to anything that maybe the teacher has to read to him, he doesn't like them. So just having an interest is very important.
I don't have an interest
Do you
either.
have any other questions or concerns over anything that the lessons or anything that took place this summer?
No.
No, nothing?
Nope.
Kids, shush.
Alright. Well, if you don't have any other concerns or anything, I'll make sure to get copies of all of the test results to you. Once I have them all put together, I'll get them to you so that you can confirm all the information. And if you have any additional questions, you can always give me a call or let me know and we can talk more about it. But the most important thing is to make sure that you are practicing with Carter, because I think the more practice that you do with him, the better his reading skills are going to be, but also it's going to limit his frustration level.
Okay.
Alright?
As you can tell, there were a few distractions with the kids being in the next room, but we were able to discuss a lot of the information that took place throughout the summer. Throughout the summer, I emailed Crystal all of the lessons and the reflections that I posted to Blackboard so that she could see exactly what we were working on. I also scanned in and emailed her results of all the assessments that we completed so that she could use them as a reference and show Carter's teachers when he starts school again in August. I asked her to print these off and look at them while I went through them on the conference, but I don't think that she did. All of the information that we went through in the conference was important and imperative to Carter's lessons, and hopefully they saw an improvement in his reading and will use my suggestions throughout the rest of the summer and while he's in school to improve his reading skills. So I wasn't too surprised by the lack of interest in this conference.